On June 3rd, 2026, at approximately 1:40 in the afternoon, the Grand Canyon National Park Regional Communications Center received reports of an 18-year-old male experiencing heat-related symptoms below Havasupai Gardens on the Bright Angel Trail. Rangers responded. They found him approximately 30 feet below the trail in an area called Garden Creek. He was alive when they reached him. A helicopter was called in. Life-saving measures were performed. He died shortly after. He had been on a day hike with his father, rim to river and back, 16 miles, 4,500 feet of descent into one of the most extreme thermal environments in North America. He was 18 years old. His name has not been released. This is what happened, and more importantly, why it keeps happening. Most people who visit the Grand Canyon stand at the rim and look. They take a photograph, they feel the scale of it, and then they notice the trail going down and think, that looks manageable. That is the first and most consequential misunderstanding a person can have about the Grand Canyon. Bright Angel is the park's most popular trail. It takes hikers roughly 8 miles from the south rim to the Colorado River, descending 4,500 feet. It is well maintained. It has rest stations. It has water refill points along the route in summer. It is graded and clearly marked. From the rim, it looks like a good trail on a good day. What it does not look like from the rim, and what no photograph can convey, is what it feels like at the bottom in June. The Grand Canyon is not just a deep hole in the ground, it is a heat trap. The walls of dark rock absorb sunlight all day and radiate it back out. The canyon is below the desert surface, which means the air sits and bakes without the wind that might provide some relief at elevation. Inner canyon daytime temperatures commonly climb above 110 degrees Fahrenheit in summer. On June 3rd, 2026, the day this young man died, temperatures at the bottom of the canyon were above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and there were no formal extreme heat warnings posted that day. The park did not need to issue a special warning for conditions to be lethal. This is just what June looks like inside the Grand Canyon, and every summer thousands of people walk down Bright Angel Trail without fully understanding that. Before we follow this particular hike, it is worth understanding why rim-to-river day hikes are something the National Park Service actively discourages, not because the trail is technically difficult, but because of a specific, predictable, and repeatedly deadly trap built into its geography. The trail goes down first. Down is easy. Down is fast. Down feels good. You are covering distance. The canyon is opening up around you. The views are extraordinary. The air is warming and you are moving well. Going down 8 miles takes most fit people 3 to 4 hours. The problem is that down is also into the heat. The further you descend, the hotter it gets. Roughly 5 degrees Fahrenheit for every 1,000 feet of elevation you lose. By the time you reach the bottom, you are in a completely different climate than the one you left at the rim, and by the time you reach the bottom, you have already spent half your energy, half your water, and you are now at the hottest point of the day, in the hottest part of the canyon, with the entire 4,500 feet still to climb back out. The hike out of the canyon will likely take twice as long as the hike down, twice as long, in heat that may be 20 or 30 degrees hotter than what you started in, going uphill on tired legs, carrying whatever water you have left. This is the trap. The descent feels manageable because it is. The ascent is where the body fails, not because the trail changes, but because the person has changed. They are hotter, more dehydrated, more fatigued, and they have used up the reserves they will need for the hardest part. The park has a phrase for this pattern. They call it the down and back problem. They post signs, they brief visitors, they hand out flyers, and every summer people die on Bright Angel Trail because the first half felt fine. The father and son set out from the south rim on the morning of June 3rd with the intention of completing the full rim-to-river day hike, 8 miles down to the Colorado River and 8 miles back, a 16-mile round trip. The name of the young man has not been released by the Park Service, pending notification of family. He was 18. He was hiking with his father. We do not know exactly when they started, what they carried, or what their experience level was. What we know is what the Park Service and the park spokesperson confirmed in the days following. The teen was hiking with his father when he began experiencing symptoms of heat exhaustion roughly a mile north of Havasupai Gardens, which is 4.8 miles from the canyon rim. That detail tells us a great deal about how the day unfolded. Havasupai Gardens is the major rest and water station on the Bright Angel Trail, 4.8 miles from the rim, about 3,000 feet below it. It is the point where the trail substantially levels out before continuing to the river. It has water, shade, and ranger presence. It is where most day hikers who are going to turn around should turn around. The young man was a mile past Havasupai Gardens when he began showing symptoms, meaning he was almost 6 miles from the rim, deep in the canyon in the heat of the afternoon. He and his father had descended well past the natural turnaround point that the Park Service recommends for day hikers. They were in the inner canyon, below the gardens in the section of the trail that runs through some of the most exposed and remote terrain on the route. This is the part of the story that most coverage skips, but it matters enormously for understanding what happened next. Heat exhaustion and heat stroke are not the same thing, and the progression from one to the other is faster than most people expect. Heat exhaustion is the body's early warning. Heavy sweating, weakness, cool or pale skin, a fast but weak pulse, nausea, and muscle cramps. It is uncomfortable, it is serious. But a person experiencing heat exhaustion is still largely functional. They can communicate, they can make decisions, they can recognize that something is wrong. Heat stroke is the emergency. It occurs when the body's cooling system fails entirely and core temperature rises above 104 degrees Fahrenheit. At that point, the body stops sweating, the skin becomes hot and dry, and critically, the brain is affected. In extreme cases of heat stroke, victims can suffer ataxia, loss of balance, and altered mental status, the park spokesperson said after this incident. Ataxia means loss of coordination. The body stops being able to control its own movements accurately. Altered mental status means confusion, disorientation, impaired judgment. The person experiencing heat stroke may not fully understand what is happening to them. They may not be able to accurately assess their own condition. They may feel, in a confused way, that they are fine when they are not. This is what makes heat stroke in a remote canyon environment so specifically dangerous. The illness itself impairs the person's ability to respond to it correctly. What happened in the canyon in the minutes before 1:40 in the afternoon is partially reconstructed from what the father reported and what rangers found. The young man began showing signs of heat illness. His father, recognizing the seriousness of the situation, used a satellite communication device to call for help, a piece of equipment that likely saved the rescue team critical time. Then he made a decision that, in retrospect, became one of the most painful details of this story. After the hiker began experiencing signs of heat stroke, his father called for help using a satellite device. He then left the teen on the trail to find help at the Havasupai Gardens ranger station. When he returned, his son had fallen off the trail. The father left to get help because help was not coming fast enough. He was trying to do the right thing. The ranger station at Havasupai Gardens was a mile away, close enough to reach on foot, far enough that leaving his son alone was a genuine choice that had to be made. In the time he was gone, the young man, alone on the trail in extreme heat with an altered mental state caused by heat stroke, lost his footing. Officials believe heat stroke may have caused the man to faint or fall off the trail. The victim was experiencing heat-related illness prior to the fall, which may have been the contributing factor to the fall itself. The park spokesperson said he fell approximately 30 feet into the Garden Creek drainage below the trail. Rangers located him there at around 1:40 in the afternoon. He was alive. A helicopter was brought in. Every available intervention was applied. Despite rapid response efforts by park rangers and a coordinated helicopter rescue operation, life-saving measures were unsuccessful. The June 3rd death was not an isolated incident. It was the first in a series of heat-related fatalities at the Grand Canyon in the summer of 2026. On June 12th, a 72-year-old male died of heat-related illness on the South Kaibab Trail. On June 16th, a 67-year-old man and a 68-year-old woman both died on the North Kaibab Trail under similar circumstances. 3 more deaths in 13 days following the first. The park averages roughly 15 visitor deaths per year, with heat repeatedly involved in incidents during the hottest months. Some years see clusters of fatalities during particularly extreme heat spells. The Grand Canyon is one of the most visited national parks in the United States, and a significant number of those visitors arrive in summer, the worst possible season for unprepared canyon hiking, because that is when families take vacations. The park posts warnings. Rangers hand out flyers at the trailhead. Signs at the rim explicitly state that rim-to-river day hikes in summer are not recommended. The park's website says it clearly. None of it is hidden. And yet the pattern repeats year after year because the trail at the top looks nothing like what it becomes at the bottom, and because the thing that kills you, the heat, feels gradual right up until it doesn't. Walking through June 3rd, the moments where a different outcome was possible are not hard to identify. None of them require hindsight. All of them are things the Park Service publishes openly. The timing of the hike put the father and son descending into the canyon during the hottest part of the day. Incidents like these occur when individuals are overexerting themselves at the hottest time of the day, between the hours of 10 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon, the park spokesperson said. The standard guidance from the Park Service is to begin canyon hikes before dawn, reach the deepest point of the hike before the heat peaks, and be climbing back out in the relative cool of the morning. A midday descent into the inner canyon in June is specifically what the park's guidance warns against. The goal of a rim-to-river day hike adds significant risk on its own. The Colorado River is 8 miles and 4,500 feet below the rim. Round trip, that is a 16-mile, 9,000-foot gain and loss hike in a heat environment most visitors have never experienced. The Park Service does not say this hike is impossible, but it explicitly discourages it as a day hike in summer, and for good reason. Most people who attempt it have not trained for it, have not accounted for the return journey in their energy and water planning, and do not recognize how much the heat multiplies the difficulty of the climb out. The heat that day exceeded 100 degrees at the bottom of the canyon. There were no formal extreme heat warnings posted. This is important because it illustrates a common misunderstanding. Visitors sometimes assume that if a formal warning has not been issued, conditions must be manageable. Inside the Grand Canyon in June, 100-degree temperatures are not an unusual event requiring a special warning. They are the baseline. The warning is the season. The moment the young man's condition crossed from heat exhaustion into heat stroke, the situation changed in a way that is important to understand. Heat stroke is a medical emergency that impairs judgment. A person in the early stages of heat stroke may not recognize the severity of their own condition. They may feel dizzy but not critically ill. The altered mental status that comes with heat stroke means the body's usual self-preservation signals are compromised. The person may not accurately assess whether they should sit down, lie still, or try to keep moving. And part of it is that 100-degree heat at the bottom of a canyon does not announce itself the way a storm does. There is no visible danger. The sky is clear. The sun is bright, but it is always bright in Arizona in June. The heat is simply there, constant, building inside the body quietly until it isn't quiet anymore. Signs of heat stroke include confusion, fainting, changes in mental status, and hot, dry skin. Anyone showing those symptoms needs immediate cooling and urgent medical attention. The problem is that by the time those signs are obvious, the person experiencing them may no longer be able to act on that information themselves. If you liked this video, please hit the subscribe button. Thanks, and see you in the next one.